Creative Loitering Podcast.
I made a deal with the devil, and I ain't coming back. Sold my soul for less. My mistake to think it was love. Yeah, my mistake to think it was love.
Oh, Valerie Grace Vadas, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
So, Gracie, last time I saw you was a year ago?
It was a year ago. It was at the beginning of... No. How long has COVID been going on, actually? Like a year?
5 years?
No.
I don't know.
I came here around the time it started.
You guys were out in L.A. or something?
Yeah, he came to San Diego because that's where I live. And then we started working on the music video there. And then I came out to New York and we worked on it a little bit more. But there was a bunch of just COVID everywhere. So it was really hard to get a bunch done because he came to California and then he had to rush back because one of his friends
said they were closing the borders up, so I had to go back home. Which they didn't even close the borders. It was all bullshit, but still. It's a
Like some of the
upsetting.
states were going to make it, so you can't.
Yeah, you couldn't cross the border.
That's when it was like really serious, everyone was freaking out. So they were closing down everything.
Yeah, I remember that. And Josh is like, hey, they're shutting everything down and we're in a pandemic. I'm going to go on a road trip to California. I'm like, that's
It was
exactly
amazing.
what they're telling you not to do.
It was
but okay.
amazing. Like there was no
Yeah.
traffic anywhere. It was just like smooth sailing. It was like no other, like you'll never get a trip like that ever again.
So there was no traffic during the pandemic.
Exactly.
Yeah. I
No
turned around and
traffic.
did the same thing. I flew to New York and no one was on the plane really. So it was pretty nice. But then when I come to New York City, it wasn't, the full New York City feel that you get because everything was crazy at that time.
Times Square was empty. I remember you were posting.
Photo shoots in Times Square. Yeah.
It was super weird. It was not what I had heard of for New York City, which was just crazy busy all the time.
And you guys were recording the video for this song that we're recording here.
Yeah, we worked on it because we also were doing photo shoots at the same time. So we did some photo shoots, and then we started working on the music video. And I don't think, at least for like 3 days straight, we didn't sleep. We might have slept for a few hours, but we were just like working the whole time. So by the end of it, I was so delirious. I didn't know what was even going on anymore. I wasn't talking right, so everyone was laughing at me. Josh was still somewhat there, but
Yeah, of course.
I was just so tired. But then he had to rush and leave before we could finish it. So we're still, wrapping up a few things for the music video now.
I saw the clip, the abandoned building.
Yeah, I actually, that day I stepped in glass. It hurt kind of bad.
You have to go to the ER, have them pick it up.
No, I'm a country girl, so I'm just like, let's go. But I will complain a lot.
Yep.
Or more so whine about it for a bit, and then I'm just over it. But I don't know. I used to walk barefoot through the woods all the time, just everywhere. We would go everywhere barefoot.
That's coming back. They're calling it grounding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they're telling everybody that they need to take their shoes and socks off and walk on the grass every day.
And stare at the sun.
Oh, I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and like sunning their planariums, and it's getting weird. Yeah, just a lot of different.
I just
Sunny.
always walk barefoot. I'm just so used to it.
What part of Alabama are you from?
Well, I'm from this little small town called Beauregard, and it actually just had, I think about 2 years ago, around 2018, it had a big tornado go through it. So it looks different than what I grew up in, but I think I graduated, or my graduating class was going to be at most probably 600 people, something like that. So it wasn't a huge town.
Not bad. So how many pumps are there at the gas station? I picture one of those like desert or down south towns
Yeah.
where there's just the one pump
Oh, there's a lot
on
of
each
those.
side.
Yeah, there's a lot of those. It wasn't too, I mean, we were a little bit more updated, but the education was way worse because I moved to California when I was 16, which is 2 years before you graduate. And I got to California and the whole education system, in Alabama is way behind California's education system. So I was very confused when I got to California. I was in social shock, education shock, everything. So I had to adapt very quickly to moving like that.
What's the biggest difference from Alabama to Cali?
Well, in Alabama, you're very judged. So since it's so small, everyone knows you, everyone knows your mama, everyone knows your grandma. Like, I mean, you find out things about yourself through other people almost, like rumors. Just because everyone talks there. You can't do anything without someone knowing about it or someone's mama knowing about it. So when I got to California, I was just very, very worried about that, like being judged and all of that. But the biggest difference is probably just the culture of people there, like the community. It's very close in Alabama compared to California. It's like I would meet people who've went to the same school their whole lives, but they didn't even know each other. And you would never really see that in Alabama, at least at my school. It was very different from, my small, like, close-knit community in Alabama compared to this huge school. And people seem to grow up a lot faster in California as well. So it was just very different for me.
Is that around the time you started songwriting?
I would write, but I didn't, perform it or video or anything like that during high school. But once I got out of high school, I started writing again. I really dug into my singing right after high school because in high school it's just, very judgy. You don't understand that there's this whole other world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How has your songwriting changed since then?
I've definitely gotten a lot more comfortable in my songwriting. I almost like to tell this developing story. I like for it to have, an opening, a middle part to it, and an ending. And even if some of my lyrics are sad, I like to put them to these more upbeat type of feels. So it's not a sad thing. I'm always the type that gets super emotional with music. So when I hear this really sad song, I'm like, this makes me just want to cry. Why do I want to listen to this? So that's what I try to add to my music. But really what I like to do in my music that I've gotten a lot more comfortable with is just brutal honesty. It's like I just like to let it all out because I know there's probably so many other people who can relate to the same things I'm feeling. And I don't really like the whole tiptoeing around things. So I just like to write down exactly what I'm feeling because my lyrics will just come to me. Like I was taking a shower today and like lyrics just came to me and I was like freaking out because I had to go write them down really fast or I was going to forget them. So I just hurried up and got out of the shower and then I went and wrote them down. But that's how they'll come. They'll come at the most random times. And I like to keep them all because, they go part with who I am, like what I'm feeling, and I like to just put that all on paper and find a way to work with it.
This video that we're recording.
The song is called Mistake. So it was written right after a breakup with an ex of mine, and I was just trying to get through that and deal with it. The relationship hadn't been healthy, so that's how I deal and process with my feelings, is writing them in a song and understanding that there's so many other people that have felt the same way, that, it really brings out my potential because I wrote that song to show, this is who I am, this is how I get through things, this is me, growing as an artist is writing these things down. The biggest thing with being a songwriter is I mean, I guess what I would say is challenging about being a songwriter is, you have to go back to that moment of exactly how you felt. So when you're writing a song and, it's more emotional, you have to go back and feel that to put it back in your song. And so that's when you really are moving on from things like that. And I feel like that's even how I feel when I listen to a song that way, because it just hits me the same way. And I'm like, that's what this artist had to do too. So yeah, that's kind of what that song was. It was just like almost like a statement for myself, and a form of moving on and growing.
It can be therapeutic.
Yeah, exactly.
There's so many hit songs and hit records about breakups.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the more bitter, the more terrible the breakup, the better the album.
Exactly.
Alanis Morissette and Adele are
Mm-hmm.
the top two that pop into my head that both top 30 million copies each.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they were really mad at their exes when they wrote those.
Exactly. It's like the honesty when you have a story and you're not just, because you'll hear some songs where it's basically stating the problem but not going into the emotions of it. And I feel like that's what makes artists like Adele, among others, sound, it just gets to you. You'll hear it and you're like, oh, I feel that. You feel it in you. Like there's been certain songs that will just, give you goosebumps almost because you relate to it so much.
Exactly. If you do it right, people understand what it felt like to get your heart torn out.
Yes.
And how it felt for you, so they can identify with you. And there's a certain catharsis for the songwriter and for the audience.
Yeah.
So it just takes on a meaning of its own.
Yeah, that's what I, as an artist, I've always wanted to, rather than just, be singing to the audience or speaking to them. It's like speaking with them, like singing with them, because that's what really gets crowds going, is when they feel that emotion. You want to, it brings a community almost. It's like, I feel that too. That's how you grow fans. It's like, wow, because a lot of people don't say this kind of stuff. They don't, not everyone talks about this stuff daily. Sometimes it's just music is what can bring that out in people, and to realize, I'm not alone in this, so it grows this little community, I guess I would call it.
Those songs have a way of evolving. So normally you would be touring, you would be performing this song over and over, and it would change. It would evolve as you experience it with the audience over the course of a year. In all these different cities and all these different crowds, and it would mean something different to you. And maybe on a bad day, you would just perform it and get through the show. But on a good day with a good crowd, maybe it starts to mean something a little bit different than it did a year ago.
Exactly, yeah. It already has. I mean, when I first started with it, it was still very emotional for me now. And now when I sing it, it's just, I don't know exactly how to explain it other than it just makes me very proud. I'm not as sad anymore, but I definitely still get emotional towards the song. I just, it's not some super hard thing for me to sing and perform anymore. Where at first, I feel like a lot of artists can relate to this, is when you write such an emotional song, it can almost like bring tears to your eyes while you're singing it, because a lot of times you're still feeling that when you've written it. Because at least for me, I start writing very soon after, if something big happens, I'm like, write that down. Like, write it down, write how I'm feeling down. Even poems can always turn into songs usually for me. So I'm just always trying to write everything, to remember it, because I'll also forget very quickly.
You mentioned that you're going to be collaborating with a bunch of different producers on this next project.
Yeah, so I'm attending NYU right now. There's multiple producers that I'm speaking to now. It's more about, I think the hardest part of choosing producers is having someone who matches your style. And I kind of have a weird style. It's like a dark pop mixed with jazz, like jazz elements to it is what I really try and go for. But that can be kind of hard to find with certain people, because they might, sound way too pop or way too alternative. So right now I've just been working with different artists at NYU. In California, I'm working with someone. So it's just a little bit all over the place right now.
So yeah, if you want to infuse some jazz elements, you could do worse than New York City.
Yeah. That's a goal to go there. It's just with COVID right now, it's finally calming down. But I just didn't want to move for school until it was a little bit more open, because that's when I can start really getting into what I want to do. Because just for the past year, it's been very challenging. I had a few things set up and some fell through, even like the music video, because of COVID. So COVID has definitely really gotten in the way of me breaking into my music, but I've still been continuously working on creating more songs. I'm trying to make a full album to release with my music video, is really what I would like to do. And I already have multiple songs written, so I should, my wish is to release the whole album along with the music video.
So we didn't say at the beginning what stage name you're using, because we call you like 3 different names.
Oh, yeah. So my stage name is Valerie Grace Vadas. That's like, my real name is Grace, though. So that's why I stuck with that. But I just didn't feel like my real name sounded right. Valerie is actually the song I heard it. I'd heard Amy Winehouse before, but there was this biography about Amy Winehouse, and my friend had shown it to me, and I heard the song Valerie, and I think I was 17, 18, and I was just like, wow. Like, I really felt it, and it just encouraged me to be who I am. And so that was the first song that I started singing that got me back into, actually performing and releasing my work. And so I instantly chose Valerie, and I liked the initials V and V.
V&V.
Yeah. So then I just looked up V last names. I found Vadas. Not a lot of people have the last name. I wanted something very different. So that's what I went with. No one else had the name.
There's a lot of that. It's so difficult to keep up. A lot of the models I photographed, they've got their online names.
Yeah.
So on the model release, there's 2 line items, like the real name exactly as it appears on your driver's license, and then your stage name / AKA. Because otherwise I can't keep track. Mm-hmm. So if I look for the model release later, the real name just doesn't click. Exactly. Doesn't mean anything. There's a bunch of people I've known for years, and I don't really know what their last name is, or maybe even what their real first name is, because they identify as this persona.
Yeah, people won't get it with me. They'll see. Some people will see my license and then my Instagram, or I'll just have different accounts with different names, and they're like, "What are you, a catfish? Like, who are you?" And I'm just like, try to explain it. Some people won't get it, but I don't know. I really wanted to do that. A lot of the artists that I love, I just feel like it almost sticks out more. It makes you feel like more you as an artist when you can make this little, just like not a whole new identity, but something you relate yourself with when you're singing as an artist. You can kind of separate the two, and it's nice. It's like Hannah Montana.
Hannah Montana.
Yeah, in a way.
Easy one to remember.
Yeah.
Before we cut to the music part, where do people learn more about you? What's your Instagram?
So my Instagram is just Valerie Vadas. The Vadas is VADAS. But yeah, follow me on there. I do modeling on there all the time. I'm releasing a lot of new music stuff coming up, and I'm really excited for it. So
perfect. Okay, so let's cut to the music, and then maybe we'll keep chatting again after that.
okay.
You started a fire and asked me to put it out, rising higher in the flames I drown. That's what it feels like to love you. myself just to touch you. You're just so hard to please. Lord, put my heart at ease. I can't keep doing this. I made a deal with the devil and I ain't coming back. Sold my soul for less. My mistake to think it was love. Yeah, my mistake to think it was. I've seen your devil face. You have no hiding place, but I don't care. Stand tell, I belong in hell. Narcissistic, but I love it. Never felt quite so hard. Should've known from the start. Promise me we'll always be. Then you can see everything you need. That's what it feels like to love you. Burn myself just to touch you. You just won't say, but I know your game. Okay, I'll play. You'll never get away. I made a deal with the devil and I ain't coming back. Sold my soul for less. My mistake to think it was love. My mistake to think it was. I made a deal with the devil and I ain't coming back. Sold my soul for less. My mistake to think it was love. Yeah, my mistake to think it was love.
Thank you for listening to the Creative Loitering podcast. Don't forget to ring the bell and subscribe and like and comment below and enable notifications and click the heart and leave a review and swipe right at Patreon and OnlyFans and make a donation and follow me on Facebook and Snapchat and Instagram and Twitter and WhatsApp and WeChat and TikTok and QQ and Qzone and Reddit and Twitch and YouTube and Vimeo and Pinterest and Periscope and Valence and Zelle and Venmo and Untapped and Alpha and Ubo and House Party and Peanut and Caffeine and 23 Snaps and Likey and Date Tracks and Academia and Fark and MeWe and Tumblr and LinkedIn and Tagged and Nextdoor and Lixt and DeviantArt and Quora and Flickr and Meetup and Reverb Nation and Goodreads and Flickster and Caring Bridge and Wattpad and Crunchyroll and eBay and Smugmug and Skyrock and MyHeritage and LiveJournal and VK and Plug.